They say music is life, so I give them the Cha-Cha Music Review podcast. Turned up the volume, gave them the time of their lives. They said they wanted new artists, I gave them the Cha-Cha Spotlight series. They wanted deep music conversations, I plugged them into the Cha-Cha Let's Talk music series. They are crazy about the hit makers, so I hit them with the Cha-Cha Hit Makers series. And for the albums I know they shouldn't miss, I blessed them with the Cha-Cha Album Review series. I created the Cha-Cha EP compilation series, so they will have a taste of the best of EPs. They should tell their friends, you should let your family know, we should let everyone who cares about African music know. Afistonova is back in the game, and you can catch me every Saturday amplifying the African sounds by bringing the best of African music to your ears. I am your musical plug, the creator of the Energy Force, and this is the Cha-Cha Music Review podcast.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and members of the Cha-Cha Nation. You already know my name is Afistonova, aka your musical plug, creator of the Energy Force. And this is the Cha-Cha Let's Talk Music series on the Cha-Cha Music Review podcast. Today, I will be having a very important guest and we'll be talking about a very important topic. We all know that when it comes to music in Nigeria, the year 1999 is a very, very significant year in the history of music in Nigeria. Forget this 2022-2023 that we are shouting Afrobeat to the world. Afrobeat to the world didn't start in 2022 or 2023. It started as way back as 1999. But that is not even, the topic of today. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let me allow my guest for today to introduce himself.
Hi guys. Afistonova, yes?
Yes, Afistonova.
Yes, my name is Jide Taiwo. I work in and around the media, which includes, journalism, writing, PR, marketing, communications, and that's about it. My name is Jide Taiwo. I write, I create, I consult in and around media, and yes, I published a book.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast today. And without wasting much of your time, let's talk about, what we are here to talk about. Like you rightly said, you published a book. Before we get into, the book itself, let's talk about what led, to the book. Because like you rightly said, you said history made the most important Nigerian song since 1999. Now, what led to you saying, I want to write a book about, the Nigerian music industry?
Right. First off, I think I'm a nerd, right? Even in my younger formative years, I would rather read a book than play video games. Not to say that I didn't play video games or play sports, but I would rather read a book first. Do you get what I mean? So I've always been fascinated by history. I've always been fascinated by things that have happened before and how they affect things that are happening now and how we can make projections for the future. Do you get what I mean? So having worked in entertainment media for about 10 years at the time, I think I wanted to read something about Nigerian music, and I found out that we've not done a lot in that regard. Even for the genres that predates this, our current era, we've not written quite a lot. I know there are books here and there about Fuji music, maybe about high life, but you find that these are more academic records, and they've been done many years ago, some of them by non-Nigerians, and particularly for the Afrobeats era. To me, it seemed like there wasn't deliberate effort to record all of these things as we were doing them. And at the time that I started writing the book, Davido had done the O2, Wizkid had done the O2, we had done Drake, we had voice-breaking records all over the place. And it seemed to me like all we were doing was just doing Snapchat and Instagram stories, things that could change, things that could fade. Facebook changed their model from, media first to people first, and a lot of content was lost in that regard. Recently, Mr. Elon Musk, who took over Twitter, has been tweaking and changing things. So in as much as we trust all of these social media platforms because they are the things that connect us the most, there's still nothing like deliberate recording and documentation of history of our times. And to me, it seemed like that wasn't being done. And I come from a generation that I think is a little more privileged than the people that came before us, in that all of the tools that we need are readily available. So I took it upon myself. Having worked in the entertainment media for as long as I have, I cannot blame anybody if things I want to see are not there. So, I felt like it behooved me to do the work that I was looking for.
Like you rightly said, you mentioned about how a lot has not been done in terms of documenting, the progress and the achievements in the music industry, especially, in this present, generation that we have. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I came across your book, two things, before I even read the book at all, two things stood out for me. Number one, it was the fact that I said, okay, this book was being written by a Nigerian. Like, okay, finally, we are having someone that is going to, tell our story, someone that knows, the in and out of the music industry, someone that has witnessed it. And then the time range in which you covered, the history from, which is from 1999, because 1999, for a lot of us, like you rightly said, yes, there might be one or two books about, the 70s and the 80s, the Fujis, the Akbalas, but a lot of us pending in this generation, we might not really know much about that, and we might not really be able to connect about that. But if you look at, the boom of the Nigerian music industries today, majority of it started from that 1999, movement, right? So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, fine, this is going to be an interesting read. Let me, make sure I get this book and I read it. And honestly speaking, I read the book. I was really, really, impressed. But before we go and dissect the book and all of that, let me just ask, what was the most interesting, experience for you about writing this book, and also the most challenging experience for you while writing this book?
First, thank you for your kind words. I don't take it lightly when people go out of their way to consume projects that you've created. It's very heartwarming, and it's gratifying to see that people are as excited as the whole thing has won here. So thank you first. To answer your question, the most exciting thing for me was rediscovering some of the stories that I probably are not remembered in years, right? I remember the first time I interviewed Ice Prince as an entertainment journalist, and this was in the days of BlackBerry Curves. And Ice Prince was very gracious, invited me and my colleague at the time into his home. We had like a full hour of conversation. We had drinks, we had a fantastic time. And when we finished, I discovered that I did not hit record on my BlackBerry Curve. And I couldn't tell him, because how do I tell somebody that has given us, about 6 hours of his time that, sorry, Oga, this is not record, can we do it again? The chemistry will no longer be there. And we just had to, scratch our heads to piece together, something that could still go into the magazine. So plenty incidents like that. I remember, attending Coco concerts in 2012, and, it was a very fun experience, to say the least. Coco concerts was held at the now Eco Atlantic, but at the time was under construction. Some of the logistics that the band and his organizers put in place were not there at the time, but I had to chase the stories. I'm not trekked as much as I did that day since that day. Do you get what I mean? So, rediscovering some of those things, some of those elements, some of the music that raised me, watching Tribesmen or listening to Tribesmen, I'm like, oh crap, I like these guys. I connect with these guys. I want to do what they do. So rediscovering those things, those stories, for me was the most exciting. The most challenging part, incidentally, and I didn't think that was going to have a profound effect on me like that, is that I started to write the book in November of 2019, hoping that by Easter or, June, the book will be out. So by the Christmas period of 2019, by January, I think I'd done the first 2 chapters and I was raring to go. And then COVID hit. You know, everybody had to go back to their homes and work from home and all of that. And in my head, I thought that, oh, fine, we are not moving anywhere. There's a lockdown. I have light. I have petrol. I can do one or two things. I definitely will finish this book in a few weeks. I found myself unable to write all through the lockdown period, which was crazy for me. I didn't think that it was going to affect me that badly. I didn't catch COVID. None of my family members did. But the overriding, effect that the atmosphere had on everybody, I was just unable to write. And I, put my money where my mouth was. I told everybody I'm writing a book. The book is going to be out. Yeah, so people are going to understand that there's COVID. The book cannot come out during COVID. But as soon as lockdowns are relaxed, people will expect. And I think I'd put a release date of the last quarter of 2020. I could not start writing again until August of 2020. And I had to pack the majority of that book between August and November when it went into press, because it has to be out in December. So those were the exciting and challenging things for me.
Now, the book says the most important Nigerian songs since 1999. And then what you did was you mentioned each year and you mentioned one particular song for each year.
Yes.
Now, let me ask this question before we dive into the book proper. What was the criteria you used in saying, because let's take, for example, if somebody wants to say the most important song in 2022, just for example, we had about, just not to exaggerate, but we have, let's say, about 100 songs that came out in 2022. So how do you sit down and determine and say, this is what makes this one song, the most important song among all the songs that came out in 2022? So how were you able to decide what were your factors that you say, okay, this is what I will use to say this is the most important song from 1999 up until, 2020?
Right. So I have the privilege of having lived through these eras. So to a very large extent, I could tell, what the songs did. Why I went for important rather than popular or best-selling was that some of these metrics could be, and I don't want to say could be gamed. People could have a very good year, and it won't necessarily mean, if you consider the music ecosystem and their own careers, in fact, that one song could happen not to be the most important for them. So for me, what I did was to compare what the song did either for the artists themselves or for the music industry or for the genre. So once I started to look at it from those lenses, it became, rather easy. The first thing I did was to do a long list of the top 20 songs for each year. And that took, some research, newspapers, old newspapers, which are very difficult to come by, just to see what songs were popping in 1999, for example. And you'll see that out of all of these things, there was one that did more for either the artist or the music than others did. Once I started to look back, because, and I think I wrote it in the preface that when you think about great songs, some of the things that might becloud us are how popular they seem to be at the time. So popular is not the same thing as important. One of the most striking chapters for me, myself, that I wrote was a chapter on Gino, No Be God. Now, Gino is not a popular artist, right? I think he even has an aversion for media, because I've been asking him for an interview for about 4 years, and it's not just me. Some of my other friends that have been chasing him, and it's just not, it's not his thing, right? So Gino is not a popular artist. His songs are not popular, but if you look at what No Be God did for him and then for Nigerian hip hop, people will still tell you that that's like one of the greatest storytelling rap songs ever made, right, in the Nigerian music history. So once I started to look at it from that lens of what did this song do for artist A, what did it do for the music industry, what did it do for our society, it was rather fairly easy for me to decipher which ones were more important than the rest.
Like you rightly said, there is a difference between the most popular song and the most, important song. And, because when you tell people this song is the most important song, like you rightly said, some people would look at it like, oh, but nobody song now blew the artist past now. How
exactly
the most important song and stuff like that. So I wanted us to get that, out of the way, because yeah, there were some of the songs you kept in the book, and in all honesty, some of them I agree with. Some of them, looking at the artists, and because the thing is, I also, I've also been, a student of the Nigerian music industry, where I've also been fortunate enough to live through, some of these, experiences and impacts, as they happen. Right. For example, the first song you picked in 1999, which was Omode by Tetulia. Yeah. Now, I say this for anybody that knows, that can say, yes, I know about the Nigerian music industry, then you have to know the importance of that song, not just to Tetulia, but to every other person that was featured, on that song. Right. And then how that song, became like the template for every other song that probably came out, after then. You wanted to do anything, if it's not sounding like Omode Meta, then, you've not really done
struggle.
Yeah, you've not really done anything. And also looking at the importance of that song, even to Tony Tetulia as an artist, because that was the song that probably literally, kicked off his career and introduced him like, okay, yes, you're now a solo artist and you can do this, on your own. So when I saw that first song as Omode Meta, I'm like, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. There's no way you want to talk about 1999 and you won't talk about Omode Meta. I'm like, okay, fine. Right. This is good. But so the first one, I had a bit of, of all their songs, why did you pick this? Because the thing is, I want people, after this, conversation, I still want people to go ahead and go and pick the book and read it for themselves. Right. So we're just going to talk about 5 songs on the list, and then, people can go and read and find out which other song made the list. So the first one I'm going to pick is going to be that Trybe Oya.
Yes.
Now, why of all the songs they put out, why was Oya what you felt was the most important song for them?
For a number of reasons, and I'll share with you. One, Trybe was three people when they started releasing music in 1999. Yes. By a couple of years later, they had, introduced the larger collective that were their other friends. Mm-hmm. So what Trybe was trying to do at the time was unique because they were not street boys. And I use that word respectfully. That the Shoki will tell you is from the streets. African China will tell you is from the streets. Trybe wasn't from the streets. Matter of fact, the single person, among them that wasn't from the one among them that didn't go to a private school, let's just put it that way, was Freestyle. But Freestyle grew up in Akoka, just right outside University of Lagos. And if you know about anything about University of Lagos, it's obeying, is fresh. It's for fresh kids. LD and KB grew up in Kaduna in private schools, had access to computers when most organizations didn't have it. They had computers in their home. I know for sure that LD's parents had a computer in their home. So these were guys that were not from the streets, and some of us were not as well. Do you understand? Some of us were also middle class kids. So what they were doing introduced them to a large section of the people that were not streets. It's kind of like Kanye versus them Jay-Z, right? So Kanye's mother was a professor. Do you get what I mean? So why that Trybe was very, very impactful was that these were about 10 guys that could rap, but they were not streets. They were creamy kids, for lack of a better word. And they connected to a lot of people who were struggling between, having to form being streets and being comfortable being how do they say it in Get Inside Kid. Do you get what I mean? And then that's for them as a collective. And then what they did on Oya, I don't think has been replicated. You had 10 solid rappers, even if some of them got a little help from the more proficient members of the group. But you have 10 members doing a 3-minute and maybe 40-second song, and everybody had to pack in their best into that, time frame. And then the fact that they had a video almost the same time the song came out. This was long ago. Nobody was doing, posse cuts like that. So you had like a crew that was making music, and the fact how the song got made, really made it impactful. So LD was just going to do with a couple of friends. I think it was KB's idea, and then Dr. Sid was there, and Dr. Sid was like, "Oh, you people want to rap? You want to release a song? Can you not put me on there? Are you joking? I'm going to be on there." And the fact that, he had some of the finest lyricists, some of the finest rappers that Nigeria has ever seen. I keep talking about Blaze. Blaze is, see the way people talk about Lauryn Hill? I think that's how we should talk about Blaze. Again, their careers kind of mirror each other because they'll do one thing and then just fell out of love with the music and the industry. So yes, Oya is the only song from that tribe that has all of them, that has a solid video, and that was cool for creamy kids and then cool in the streets as well. Because you had, Shake Baka, Roll for Floor. Those are things that will connect to the average Joe on the streets, that will also connect to the average Joe in the class.
And like you rightly said, what Tribesmen, LD, and the tribes, what they did at that point in time was phenomenal. I'm not even going to lie. Now, the second song that, I also felt like, of all songs that this person released, why this is Big Bros by Ruggedman. I mean, for me, I would have felt a song like probably or a song like Ruggedy Baba. Like I would have felt like if I was to pick, I would have said, that was the most important song in Ruggedman's, career. But when I saw Big Bros, I'm like, okay, Big Bros, explain why Big Bros is the most important song, from that era.
From that year. From that year. I think came out, I can't remember off the top of my dome now when came out, but I know that there was either Two-Face or D'banj in either of the 2 years that might have come out. And if you compare what did versus say what African Queen did or what D'banj record did, but for the year that Big Bros came out, no other song in that year was as impactful as Big Bros. And again, for Ruggedman was an outsider. Do you get what I mean? Was doing stuff by himself, and then he had the nerve to go against the biggest rapper at the time, Idris Abdul Karim. Idris Abdul Karim, whatever people say now, in 2000, 2001 was the man, right? And you find out that these are guys that were trying to make up shit from things that had not happened before. So the fact that Ruggedman had the nerve to go against Idris at the time, and come to think of it, on the song with I was speaking with Tolu from Maintain when I was writing the book, and Tolu said he was friends with Ruggedman. Ruggedman was their guy. And Ruggedman had told them, guy, I go yab you. And they're like, oh, for sure, go ahead. Rasky didn't have an issue with, Black Reverends didn't have an issue. He didn't have an issue with anybody, to be honest. But even if he wasn't friends with Idris, he was friends with a bunch of other guys. That's why, so you could say that it was a little contrived. And if you listen to what he was saying on how we had softened his tone, because I discovered Ruggedman in 99. He did a song called What If, and What If is pure flames, from start to finish, bars, double entendres, all of these hallmarks of a regular hip-hop track. But that's not what he did on Some of the things that he accuses guys of doing, rapping in pidgin, putting your local language, he wasn't doing them before. So you could say that was a little bit contrived. No More Loss is a funny guy. God rest his soul. But No More Loss wasn't Hausa. It wasn't all of those effects that they were doing were created for effect, that a hair will elicit from people. Fast forward to Big Bros. He wasn't smiling. He meant everything that he said. And even though till date, Kenny and Dion would say that there's no need for them to, blacklist Ruggedman from performing or doing, and I don't think that they would have. But Kenny and Dion were so powerful that, the thing about yes men and hangers on and assistants, what I suspect is that some of the people around them will not want them to hear what Ruggedman had to say. So they'll take out some things. I don't know, and this is just me, I don't think Kenny will make a call and say, do not play Ruggedman's song. But people who work for Kenny will be like, no play this, make Organo hear him. But Ruggedman was convinced that he was blacklisted with and he had a right to feel that way. His songs weren't getting paid, and his songs were good. And then he went against them. He had no filter. He said what he wanted to say. He felt how he felt. And the fact that the song, I think, was produced by OJB, who had done some work for them, Kenny's music. So all of these things, and if you look at what it did, and if somebody is accusing you directly of trying to end his career, you will be compelled to say, yes, fuck you, I'm trying to end your career. Or you'll be compelled to say, what's my own? Do whatever you need to do. Do you get? None of Ruggedman's songs around that time has been able to do that. Kenny, D1, ID, the entire Kenny's music juggernaut was huge. Nobody could go against them. Ruggedman did, and his career didn't end. As a matter of fact, his career now went to another level after that song. So that's why I think is the most important for the year.
Given everything you've explained now, it's understandable why, Big Boss was on the list.
Yeah.
Now, the next song I want to talk about is one song that I'm not going to lie to you. I said it when I read the book, like, this one, when I saw Jide, and me and now,
we go drag out. Gotcha.
Possible. In all of their catalogs, in everything done, how were you able to select and decide and say, easy? From P Square, what's the most important song? Because, if we are going to pick any song from P Square, for me, No Easy was not even going to come close to any song I would have picked.
Right.
So, why P Square, Easy?
You cannot deny P Square's impact on the music, what it did. I don't think any group has surpassed them across the continent, up until now. However, you also got to bear in mind that each year was different. In the year that Easy was released, it was bigger than everything else. Maybe not the biggest single record from P Square's catalog, but in the year under review. That's the tricky part. So it wasn't like an expose across P Square's entire career. Is according to each year, and the argument could be made that it's maybe Señorita or any of their hit songs, but compare that to each year. Do you understand? So you start to find out, maybe Jide is not bugging at all, and maybe he is, but to me, not to defend the picks that were made, and it's just that for our music, and this is outside of P Square and everybody else, there are so many people who have insights, who have opinions, who have experience, who have the know-how, who haven't shared. So the major reason for History Made is that people should first of all disagree, and then you tell me why you disagree, and then we can have 10 books on Afrobeats. It's good for everybody, not just I don't want to be the sole voice in the wilderness like Moses and Joshua and John the Baptist. Do you know what I mean? So yes, this is what I feel, and I stand by it, because yes, Easy might not be the biggest single song of P Square's career, But in the year that it was released, it was more important than everybody else. And if you compare it year by year, there have been years that they will either come, not because they come short, but because there was just one that was more important than whatever they had in the preceding years. So, yes, I still think that P-Square needs at least a 3-episode documentary. The era of P-Square needs its own book. It needs its own musical, because what it did for about an 8-year stretch of time is incomparable, and we need to delve into it so that we put right context to their career. But yes, bear in mind that their listing in History Made is not a referendum on their entire career. It's for the year that the song was selected. I hope by this question of mine, I've been able to convince and not confuse you.
Okay. I mean, again, like you already said, it's not taking a look at their entire career.
Exactly.
It's taking a look at the year in which
exactly
was actually released. So
exactly
looking at the year that the song was released, and there was something you rightly mentioned while you were explaining it. You mentioned about how at that point one of their song was being sampled. They used to be the one to sample other people, but at that point, someone had already sampled their song, and the person that sampled the song I did well with the sampled the person used, and that kind of opened a new set of doors
to them. Exactly.
To P-Square.
See as Yanni just dey sweet for my ear. The Cha-Cha Let's Talk music series with Afistinova. Hey God, conversation with the boss break.
Oh my God.
Boss break.
You never spelled it. You don't know now, but I'm gonna tell you something.
The next one I want to talk about now is one from Ice Prince. If you look at the year Aboki was released, 2012. So now in the year 2012, how were you able to say, okay, looking at the likes of, should I say Brimo, MI, and every other artist that was around in 2012, Aboki by Ice Prince stood out as the most, important song?
So, in your introduction, you mentioned how important 1999 was. And yes, I look at 1999 as the creation, right, of this current era. Of course, people have been doing stuff before then, but in this format, that we currently follow, it's 1999. However, similar to the creation story in the Bible, there are different eras and different periods. So after 1999, there was also 2004, there was also 2006, there was also 2009, 10, and then 2012, down to 2015, 2022. And at each time, there are markers that change the game, right? There are markers that flip what we used to know into something new, something fresh, something different at the very least. Aboki is one of the first times of that era that people started to incorporate brand placement into videos. Yes, people have been getting brand endorsements. I remember that Two-Face, after he won the MTV EMA in 2005, I think, got an endorsement with Guinness Smooth, and he used to do Guinness, and by the time they were releasing the second album, Guinness was like a Guinness event, right? You also had, people down the line. The band I've spoken about how they did Coco. There was an energy drink, Power Fist, right? They did that. But Ice Prince era, that Aboki was when, brand placements that we've seen in the movies started to be incorporated in music videos. He had an endorsement, I think, with LG at the time. So for one, that marked a new beginning. Secondly, yes, he had done with Brimo He had done a bunch of stuff. He had competed on one, I think it was V-Mobile or competition at the time, But the Aboki era ushered in another era for Ice Prince that lasted another 4 years. And that's in his cadence, in his flow, in that sing-songy rhythm. So he did that on Aboki, and then he went on to do it on another song and another song, I think Superstar or something, So for himself, he found a pocket that was successful, that was easy to digest. And, that's credit to MI and them. So when MI and, Ice Prince will be the first to tell you that everything that he knew about rap and getting involved in the music business, it credits to MI. MI's genius was, that thing that them tribesmen did some 8 years before MI came. MI did it better, than they did. And it was also helped by the era that we were now in. So you had tribesmen trying to swim against the tide. You had when Chocolate City started with them MI, that the tide was actually helping. Do you know what I mean? So, there was better acceptance of Nigerian music. There was more investment in it. So whatever them tribesmen were doing in 99, 2000, by 2008-9, it had become, I know for sure that I know because, I'm involved in some certain measure. There were brands, telco brands that were trying to reach their audiences, and all they were using was Nigerian music. Do you get what I mean? So you had that convenience. You could do what you wanted. You know for sure that somebody was going to carry you. There was better acceptance and all of that. So for Aboki, Ice Prince narrowed down. That was him owning up to his roots. And you know that, the Nigerian society is it's a fractured one. It's a peculiar one in that we have this mutual, even if it's not distrust, yes, distrust on a certain level, but we have a way that we look at each other that I hope that as we move forward, we start to find and celebrate the things that bind us together more than the things that separates us. For instance, and I make the very, a statement, an argument for it in the book, people look at Aboki as something derogatory. And if you're a natural speaker of any Nigerian language, yes, me, I speak Yoruba, and I know that you could say thank you in Yoruba and it could mean 1,000 things, right? I know that is the same for 300 other Nigerian languages. So the Aboki itself, even to date, people still use it derogatorily, right? Meanwhile, it means friend. So the genius for me on that song with Ice Prince was that Ice Prince identified with his northern roots, owned it despite the othering that the larger Nigerian society is likely to have in considering what an Aboki is. Ice Prince owned it, and he owned it on a song that was extremely defining for him. He shot the video abroad. I think it was in LA or Arizona or something. I can't remember the precise location, But this was Ice Prince at his peak. You could have titled the song like Guy, and it will have had the same effect. But considering all of the things, all of the journeys that he has had to take, getting to that point, him choosing that sound, that melody, that title for that exact time makes it the most important of the year, makes it the most important of his career at the time, and you can tell that I don't think Ice Prince has stopped that era yet. I know that he has a new record out, which slams, which sounds good, but Ice Prince in that era was undefeatable. It was like the Steph Curry, it was like the one they called to the band. You know how the band was on his toes because there was a Wande Cole. MI was on his toes because there was an Ice Prince.
For me, again, I'm not even going to deny the fact that some of the points, you made in the book concerning what Ice Prince did in that year was incredible. Now, for Aboki and for Ice Prince, like you rightly said in the book, what he did, was at least for that year, and I think for 2 years thereabouts, after 2012, 2013, 2014, Aboki now didn't just become a word like we used to use, like, want to abuse somebody, you say, I do like Aboki. But Aboki now became that word like someone that is rich, someone that is, influencer, someone that has that popularity. So Ice Prince made that word Aboki go from an insult to a praise.
Yeah.
Again, that is fantastic. I just wanted to be sure of why
what the rationale was.
Now let's move away from Ice Prince and now let's talk to another song that I felt. We've had songs like these artists. They've been an artist since the first time they met. From the first song they did together, they've been doing multiple songs. I don't think you can get an album by Phyno in this present years, not see Olamide on the album, or you get an Olamide album and you not see Phyno on the album. So looking at that particular year, and you decide to say Father Father by Olamide and Phyno. When I said that, I'm like, okay, Bros DJ, you need to explain to me what is going on here. Why Father Father?
That one is simple. Check out what Phyno sounded like when he arrived. Check out what Olamide sounded like when, his reign. Check out what they've been doing since they did Father Father. They've been doing melodic rap. Singing, if some people will tell you they've been singing. Phyno was asked the question, Phyno, they rap again. And he said, yeah, they pay. What it does now, what it sings, and that's not to take away from their rapping skills or whatever, but they found out a way to connect to more people by doing melody than rap, than, what we think rap is. Since then, Olamide has gone. Olamide, I think I saw an interview he did after his last album in some place in New York. And he said that he wanted to be seen as an Afrobeat artist because he's done everything he could as hip-hop was concerned. He's been to the pinnacle. So that, again, is the beginning of a new sound, a new method of them doing their music. You cannot dissociate what they did on Father Father with what they've been doing ever since. That's just a simple truth. So yes, it also marks the fact that you could do what you want and be successful at it. You could do what other people suggest and be successful at it. But you could decide for yourself that, okay, I need to find a different lane. I need to do something fresh. I need to do something new. And people are going to take it because they know me. They know my gift. They know my style. Do you understand? You could look at the people that Olamide had signed since he became a superstar. And that's not to shit on their talent or their gift or anything. But check out the long list of all of the people that's been associated with YBNL. The most successful of them doesn't rap, Ashake. Do you understand? And it's because Olamide had the understanding that, yes, we can rap for as long as we want. And that's a separate conversation that I've had with, my rapper friends. Because me, myself, I'm a failed rapper. But I've had the conversation that you cannot do hip-hop rap and do more than you can do if you were infusing melody into it. That's just the honest to God truth. Because hip-hop in itself is, yes, we've embraced it for about 30 years, but melodies and songs are embedded in our DNA as a people. So if you find somebody who can deliver melodic raps or songs or choruses or whatever you choose to call it, you are probably going to have more success than if you were a traditional rapper. And that's not to say you're not good. That's not to say that your rap is bad or whatever it is. But check out everybody that has been involved in hip-hop in Nigeria, except for Mode9. And Mode9 is the god of lyricism. And Mode9 is stubborn. Mode9 will tell you, he's my boy. But Mode9 will tell you, I don't care. And he truly doesn't care what you say. He believes in himself. He doesn't care. He will do what he wants to do. But check out everybody that does hip-hop. At some point, you're probably leaning towards making melody, because you find out that more people connect to it. So now it's for you to decide, do I want a section of the audience that are loyal, that will listen to me no matter what? Or do I want to reach a larger section of people who are more familiar with this thing that I'm doing. And I think for me, that's what Father did. Helped rappers understand that once you've made your mark as being lyrically proficient, nobody can accuse Fino of being a bad rapper. You can't tell me that Olamide is a bad rapper. He's not. The rap audience is not as big as if you are doing melody. You reach more people if you sing than if you just stick with rapping. And that, for me, that's why Father is instructive.
Now, we are gradually coming to the end of the conversation. The book ended in 2019 with Naira Marley, Soapy, and we are not even going to discuss that. Anybody that disagree with that, that's their personal problem. So my question is, because you left 2020 blank for us to decide, so I'm asking you now, did you decide what the most important song in 2020 was?
So at the time that the book came out December 2019, January 2020. I think we started to distribute more in January of 2020. So yes, I had a few picks at the time that may have changed. But the funny thing is, I was just with my wife and I'm like, this book, I think I should do a revised edition or an updated edition, because so many things have happened in the last 3 years. And you know how incredible Nigerian music and our entertainment is. 3 years is a very, very long time. 3 years is a very, very long time. Imagine the heights that we've reached in the last 3 years compared to the last 15, for example. So yes, I have a few picks. I'm trying to finish up a couple of projects, and I'm sharing this for the first time. Yes, I will be updating History Made to at least 2022, and then we can have more conversations and more debates around it. But the feedback that I've received has been so gratifying that I know that is an important, even if I do say so myself, it's an important project for our ecosystem, for our industry, for our society, and for anybody that's interested in Nigerian music. So yes, to answer your question, I have a few picks. I had at the time. Some of them I've removed. Some of them, like that.
2020 was the year of the pandemic, and a whole lot of songs, came out. Like you rightly said, between 3 years, a lot of things, had happened, and yes, you can always go back, say it's better to have. I mean, for me, I would even, say what you've written or what you've done in this book is something that probably in the space of, let's say, 5 years, give or take, should have like some kind of updated version, right? Because it's an history that has been made and it needs, to continue. We need to let, people know that, okay, look, yes, we have the Davidos, we have the Wizkid, we have the Burna Boys. They've completely changed, what the industry is. But in as much as we are giving credit to these people, there are some specified songs that, yes, didn't get that attention. But in the spectrum of things, you can't deny what this song has done or what this song did, either to the particular artist or to the music industry, itself. Once again, I want to say thank you very much, for being on the podcast. But before we go,
thanks for having me.
Aside from the exclusive that you've dropped, that there's going to be an update, on this book, which I'll also be looking forward to, is there any other thing else that you're working on at the moment?
To answer your question, I'm working on a Burna Boy book, and I use the word book lightly. It's a book. I'm not going to print it. It's going to be available for free for everybody. It's only 5 chapters long, but it's something to explore the stagecraft, of Burna Boy. I've been working on that from last year, but I got sidetracked by other things. But it'll be, God willing, maybe in the next 1 month at the least. Just something to explore, his stagecraft, his performances. I saw him last night at the NBA All-Star event, and it's clear that Burna Boy is miles ahead of anybody else, no matter how we feel about anybody else or how we feel about Burna Boy himself. So yes, that's in the works. But the project that I'm working on that I'm really excited about is an Afrobeats museum that I'm hoping that we launch at some point this year. It's still early days. There's not much to share as of now, but it's something that I'm working on to create a home, to create a collection of what's the word I'm looking for now? Not timestamps. When I remember it, I'll say it. Just like for us to remember and celebrate and preserve the history of what we do. That is a major project that I'm working on. We're still in the ideation part of it, but I'm hopeful that at some point this year we'll launch it and we'll have everybody on, to come see, to come, contribute and take it from there.
Okay. Thank you very much once again. I hope that by the time the Afrobeat Museum is all set up, I hope I can get an invite to come.
For sure. For sure.
Cha-Cha Nation, like I said, we've come to the end of this particular episode, and do not worry. I know a lot of you will be excited and be anxious, like, oh, how do I get this book? I want to get to read this book, because trust me, when you read this book, your mind is going to be blown away. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes on how you can get the book. It's not free. It comes for a very, very, in fact, I say it again, very little token. Go tear your pocket at all. So if you are a huge fan of music, then trust me, this is something that you should get. Once again, thank you very much, Jide Taiwo, for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Afistonova. Thank you for your time, and I must commend, the work that you're doing. It's easy for us to take a lot of things for granted, especially if, in the current age that we live in, that things happen so fast and things get by quickly. But it takes, a certain level of dedication to curate the experiences of our times, and I must salute you. It's not an easy thing to do. But you're doing it, and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing. And if there's any way or thing you think that folks like us will contribute to the work that you do, please don't be shy to holler. But you're doing important work, and you should be proud. So thank you once again.
Thank you very, very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and members of the Cha-Cha Nation, my name is Afistonova, your musical plug, creator of the Energy Force. Till I come your way with another episode, remember, keep the energy, keep it 100, and keep it positive. Peace out.
Cha-cha time, two time for the Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. Rockin' with the best, the Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. Alayela with Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang. What's in my body, Cha-Cha gang. Give me the Cha-Cha gang, Cha-Cha gang.
What's in my go? Like these on the beat.